Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the Women's Sports Matter podcast. My name is Gianna Belcastro, and I am your host. Today, I'm doing another interview. I get so many amazing people on the show that I don't get to sit by myself in my office talking to myself for half an hour. Anyway, I'm going to let my guest introduce herself.
Hi, my name's Marisa Pilla. I'm a sports broadcaster based out of Philadelphia, and mainly I've been covering a lot of NWSL. So if you are a fan of women's soccer, and really why shouldn't you be, you'll probably hear my voice, see my face on all the broadcasts on CBS and CBS Sports. It's been a lot of fun, and I've been doing it for the last 3 seasons.
You honestly, every time you come up on the screen, I'm like, oh my God, that's Marisa Pilla. Like, you're just like so recognizable now. Ever since I started watching soccer, like I always look up to see if you're broadcasting.
Oh my
gosh. Because like you're really good at your job, like plain and simple. I don't want to
Thank you. Yeah, sometimes it
words.
feels like, is anybody watching this? Like in my head, to help myself like not get nervous, I always tell myself like, no one's watching, like not because like no one cares. It's just what keeps me calm in the moment of like, oh, it's just me, this isn't going anywhere. And like, it's on TV. And I just try to separate myself from that.
But it's always great to hear you during the broadcast. It's always nice to hear what's going on the sidelines. Has there been any crazy sideline stories that have happened recently or in the past that's one of your favorite that you've covered?
The sidelines it's a very interesting place because it all depends on who's on the sidelines with you. So sometimes I'll have coaches and I'm right between both benches. So if both coaches are just naturally very quiet, I'm like, okay, like I'm not getting much. But sometimes you get coaches who want to talk the entire time. They're yelling at the refs the whole time. I remember one coach, I forget who it was. It was definitely an NWSL game, maybe like a year or two ago. And the ball went out, the ref called it the wrong throw in for the wrong team, or he thought it was. And he was just yelling at them that it was simple geometry and trying to explain this simplistic geometry this ref missed. I'm like, dude, it is like the 7th minute. It's still scoreless. Like, let it go. It's not the time for a geometry lesson. But you hear some very colorful language. Some very witty remarks. These coaches are very witty on the spot, but it kind of makes it all the more fun. And I try to bring that into my reports as best as I can, because also I want to keep the trust of the people I'm reporting on that like, hey, I'm not telling everybody every single thing you said because it's the heat of the moment. This is your job. It's passionate. So I just try to encapsulate the passion more so verbatim what they're saying, because this is their workspace and ultimately they're letting me in it. And I don't want to kind of break that trust.
So you said that you sit in between the coaches. I don't know, like I've never been to a soccer game, like professional soccer game. I feel like such a fake fan. Like I've never been to a Red Stars game. I don't know how anything works. I'm just here like sitting talking about it. But is there like a special seating area for you? Are there other journalists along there with you, or is it just like you and your crew?
It's just me. So the way it works is each stadium is different, but for the most part, I have a wireless mic pack, so I can kind of walk the length of the sideline, which is really nice. And I have an IFB in my ear, which is how the producer can communicate to me and how I'm listening to the broadcast. So I have them in my ear the entire game, which is helpful. So I know what they're talking about, maybe what they're interested in, and I can kind of add to those stories that way. So I kind of just roam the sidelines. I try to like listen in, like if there's a hydration break, I'm kind of leaning in, like listening to see. I do have contacts on the bench where I can go and ask like, hey, I heard the coach say X, Y, and Z. Like, is this what he meant from that? Because I always want to clarify whatever I hear to make sure that I'm interpreting it right. Because the last thing I want is to be like, oh, he said this, and that's not what he meant at all. So yeah, I position myself down there. And what's crazy is, during COVID, while the games were still happening and I was still flying out to every game, I was the only person on the road from the crew. Everyone else, even the people calling the games, were doing it remotely. So I would show up by myself. I'd plug in my headset with whatever audio guy was there, and it was just me on the sidelines. So it was a little weird, but we're back to normal where like the whole crew's in the same stadium.
Well, that's good, at least. I like the fact, well, for my work, it wasn't a problem right away. When the season started, it was like, because of the governor's order was like, you can have 15%. And then like a month later, we got back to 100% capacity. But like, I remember watching the Challenge Cup, and it was so weird because this was the first sports league to come back in the United States, which people forget about a lot. And it's something that I try to talk about on my podcast. Watching that specifically was very entertaining, to say the least. No fans. You have a bubble, and it worked out really well. Did you have a chance to like interview or just talk to people about it in general, like what that bubble experience was like?
For sure. Yeah, I talked to a lot of different players, and even now, like when we catch up, some players I haven't talked to since the bubble. So I'll catch up, and I think a lot of the sentiment was like, it felt like an, at least for me, and I know some people share the same kind of point of view, it felt like an alternate reality. Like, are we really doing this? And then it was so, the schedule was so congested, the games were so compact. There were double headers, so 2 games a day, back-to-back days, and then repeat it every 2 days. So it was a lot of games. I think I did 28 games in a month, something crazy like that. So it was just exhausting by the time you got to the end of it. And then you looked back and thought, did that even happen? Did we really do that? Because it was just such a bizarre time. And I know a lot of the players said like it was as mentally difficult as it was physically difficult, just because the normal things you have to make yourself feel a little more comfortable or relax or kind of calm down after games, you don't have them anymore because you're not at your home, you're not with your family, you're not with your dog or your partner or whomever you kind of relax with, and you're just with your team all the time. So it was a lot. And, you know, it was hard for me to switch my brain off sometimes because it was like if you weren't busy, you felt like you should be busy, and there was nothing else to be busy with other than other than the game. So it was an interesting experience. I'm really proud of the league that they were able to pull it off, because I think it showed I think it showed a lot of the rest of the leagues like this can be done. You just have to have a plan in place.
It was really, really like well thought out. And as a fan, I really enjoyed the experience of like trying to follow along. And then all those accounts on Twitter popped up. So
Oh, yes.
Like the slide account is my favorite. That's my personal favorite, or like the sun glare.
The sun glare was the best.
Yeah.
I was like, that was clever. Yes.
Just like all these different things. People are so creative. Like
they are.
That just made me such a bigger fan of the NWSL, is because like people are engaging with the league and they're watching even though they're not able to be present. And it was just like, it was so refreshing and just so nice to like sit back and scroll through Twitter to see like another funny post about like a slide or whatever. And
yeah.
Those are good times, but I think it's safe to say that no more bubbles unless we really have to.
Yeah, I'm hoping that's not in our immediate or distant future at all.
Yeah, I'm like I went to school online last year, so I did I had 5 classes. Well, I eventually dropped one in my first semester and then 5 in the next semester. And just like I technically was in my own little bubble too, and it was kind of hard to keep track of everything, even though everything was like on this one screen. I'd have to take a break from my computer. So like I'm just staring at it all day. It's unbelievable. I'm still doing online classes though. My school is kind of like half and half right now.
Okay.
So I go to school 3 times a week, mostly. I didn't today because my teacher canceled for some reason.
Oh, nice.
But school is important. And college is a fun time. And you went to the University of Maryland. And what was that experience like?
It was amazing. I loved my time at Maryland. It like just exceeded my expectations because I really didn't know anything about the college. I just knew I wanted to study broadcast journalism. I knew I wanted to go to a bigger school. And I just applied to the best programs I could find. And eventually it all worked out with Maryland. And it's a gorgeous campus. I had so much fun. I got a lot of great opportunities there. They really give you opportunities to cover things and get hands-on as much as possible. Yeah, I mean, I can't believe I graduated so long ago because it feels like a different life. Like I don't even know that person anymore who operated under college standards. But yeah, it was a great time for sure.
Can you tell me what a terrapin is? Because I literally have zero clue.
So a terrapin is just like a big ass turtle, and
Okay.
they grow so old. And our mascot's name is Testudo. And there's a big like bronze statue of him outside the library, and you're supposed to rub his nose for good luck. And so his nose is all like tarnished and all from everybody always rubbing it. But during finals, you leave him like um, good luck charms. So it's just like an array of random crap is around this turtle statue around finals, just for Testudo to bless you with the ability to pass your finals.
Okay.
It worked. So
Wacky
I got my
tradition.
diploma. Yeah.
Nice. Good job.
Yeah.
You graduated college.
Baseline. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh my God. Like the one thing that I don't understand about college campuses, and I'm still going on college tours because I'm in community college. And one thing that I've noticed that each school has its own little wacky thing. So
Yeah.
I went to visit UConn, and you're supposed to like, I don't remember what the thing was, but you're supposed to like go up to the Husky and do something. Or I went to visit Mizzou, and there was like this curse: if you walk through this one thing before you graduate, you won't. I was like,
Yeah.
okay.
Everyone's
like,
got their thing.
how did
Yeah.
they come up with this stuff? It's so like absurd. And it's just, I'm just sitting there like, okay, can we go see the residence halls now?
Yeah. Where's the food hall? Yeah. Let's get serious.
Like, where can I spend my food voucher at?
What's the food situation? Yeah.
Yeah. That's always a fun thing to like try and figure out too. In fact, I'm going to Purdue tomorrow to visit my cousin. We're going to the Purdue Illinois game. Now,
Oh wow.
I hate both schools for no reason, mostly because my cousin goes to Purdue and it's just like I want to hate. Well, actually, okay. So I was supposed to go to IU Bloomington when I graduated from high school, but I decided against it because I would have been able to go to community college for free, which is what I'm doing right now. So she's going to Purdue, rivals, right? So ever since then, it's been like, I hate the school. But also, since I live in Illinois and a lot of people go to Illinois, I don't like Champaign. So I always tell people, like, imagine going to school in central Illinois. So I just have this pure hatred for no reason. So I can't wait to see what the wacky Purdue thing is. I'm gonna
I'm
make
sure
my
they've
cousin
got
give me a
some.
tour.
Yeah, I'm sure they got their wackiness.
Wackiness. I see behind you, you have a nice little green and blue sign, which has to go with your podcast. Can you tell me about that?
Yeah, my podcast is called Pilla Talk. And I started it last fall, and it was just an opportunity for me to kind of have longer conversations with people because in my job, what I do now with Sidelines is collectively in a game, I maybe talk for 2 minutes total. You know, my open hit at max is 45 seconds. My sideline reports have to be, 10 to 15 seconds. I have to get in and out, just not to disrupt the flow of the game. So I found that from prepping and talking to so many interesting people throughout the league, I knew a lot of interesting stories and things that a lot of people didn't know. And that's how the podcast kind of started as, let me, again, talk to these people, have them share their stories about what makes them great, what makes them tick. And it's an opportunity to kind of expand that platform. And this year I'm kind of incorporating, a news and notes section where I kind of wrap up what were some of the biggest things that stood out to me this past week in the world of soccer. So I talk about Serie A, I talk about Premier League, I talk NWSL, MLS, anything that stands out to me. I, of course, still have interviews. And then I also kind of give my previews to, hey, I think you should watch this match coming up and why it's important.
So I listened to most of them. My favorite is when you interviewed fellow Maryland Terp, Zach Steffen.
Oh, he was great.
Yeah, what was that interview like?
He was awesome. We actually, like I said in the podcast, we had a couple things in common where we both went to Maryland. We're both from the Philadelphia area. But it was just so interesting to get his perspective. I interviewed him right before the Champions League final, which of course his team lost to Chelsea. But it was just interesting to kind of get his point of view of, here's an American in one of the top teams in Europe competing for the Champions League title, and just how things operate there, because it's so, you never really get that inside look. And as a backup goalkeeper, he's able to see a lot of different things, where if he was a starter, he'd probably be more focused on maybe X, Y, and Z. So as a second string backup, he's able to kind of be a little more present, I think. And that's what made that interview really, really interesting to me.
I am a Chelsea fan. I've said it a lot on here. So I watched the final, and I was very happy that Man City lost.
I'm sure. Yeah.
I'm very biased. But like, no offense to Man City fans, but they're like, I don't even want to, I'm gonna refrain. I have like a
hold
list.
Yourself back.
Yes. I have like a list of like the worst. I actually like Tottenham more than the Manchester teams, which I feel like is a bad thing.
It's interesting.
I have like, I don't like Arsenal and I don't like the two Manchester teams. I'll deal with Tottenham more. Do you have a favorite Premier League side that you root for?
Premier League, I kind of go into it. I really don't want to root for like any of the top tier teams. I feel like I can't just become a Man United fan, but I like some of the like gruffier clubs. Like I love Brighton, because in their history, at one point, this club was so broke that they had to sell their stadium, and they were trying to raise money again to kind of get themselves back and invest back into this club. And they got a good amount from fundraisers and like investors, but they actually sold holiday cards with like nude pictures of the team on it. And I was like, that sounds like something out of like an 80s movie, like a 90s movie. And it just was like, I love stuff like that. And that's what is so cool about European soccer, Premier League soccer, is there's so much history to these clubs. And if you just like do a little bit of research, you can find like crazy stories about who founded these clubs and why they are the way they are. So yeah, I kind of watch the league very neutrally. I have some like soft spots for certain players and things like that. But yeah, I like the quirky stories.
I've read a little bit about, Italy and your connection to that. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, I'm first generation Italian on my dad's side. He immigrated to the States in the 70s. This is actually his game pamphlet when he played semi-pro soccer in the States in the 70s. So he was just in love with soccer. It was everything. So he kind of instilled that in all of us, and huge fan of Serie A, the Italian league, and a huge fan of Inter Milan. So I had to become an Inter Milan fan. I'm a huge fan of the team. My uncle is a Juventus fan, so I kind of keep an eye on them. But I can't have too many teams at the top of the table, even though Juventus is off to a terrible start. But I really have loved what Venezia has been doing this season in the last couple of years, not just with the look of everything, but how they're investing, how they're bringing in American talent. So Serie A, I think, is one of the most interesting leagues, because Italians are just so, they're extra in everything.
Yes. I can relate. I can relate.
Right.
Yes.
In style and how they carry themselves. And I just love it. I love the extraness that they bring to the soccer field. And I love just the energy from Italian soccer.
Yeah, my family's Italian, like obviously from the last name, Bel Castro. My family, I think I'm fourth or fifth. I think it's fifth generation. The one thing that I'm mad about with my family is that my grandma's mom didn't teach her Italian, and it was like this thing where they would teach the next generation. And so I'm sitting here like, why? My great aunt knows, who is my grandma's sister. some stuff, and my uncle's trying to learn some stuff too. I'm thinking about taking college courses in it because I think it's interesting, to take a language that it's where your family grew up at one point, and then they moved here, and it's like,
yeah.
I'm also an Inter Milan fan, although like Olivier Giroud, the fact that he went to AC Milan is like,
I know,
tearing my heart apart.
It's awful.
I thought, well, I knew that one day he wouldn't leave Chelsea. Like he's my phone background right now, him holding up the Champions League trophy. Like I'm a huge fan of him. I was a fan of him when he was at Arsenal. I would play with him like on FIFA a lot growing up. The fact that he went there,
I know. Yeah.
Italian soccer.
It's great though.
It is great. Like I really love following basically any soccer anytime. I used to hate soccer growing up. I've talked about this a lot on here, but one time in 5th grade, I'll tell you the long story short. One time in 5th grade, I was goalie, hated soccer, got hit in the face. I was like, I'm done. Okay, I'm done. Do it.
Yeah.
Freshman year, my high school, I went to a private Catholic high school for 2 years before I transferred. And I was like, can I play baseball? They said, no, you can play softball. Okay, cool. I'm not going to do that because you told me to do that. And I don't want to. So I decided to try out for soccer, and I liked it so much that I came back my sophomore year and I tried out to be goalie. I was starting JV goalie that year.
Nice.
And it was like this whole like full circle thing, which eventually started my love for soccer even more, like Chelsea, because of Eden Hazard. And eventually watching the men's and women's World Cup 2018, 2019, that was it for me. Like soccer came such a part of my life for some reason that my family doesn't understand. They're all NFL people, basically.
Yeah.
Like, you American. Like I'm sitting there like, you like American football. Shame on you. So with soccer, just in general, like, what has been the best part of working within the world sport?
I think just the people I meet, because like you said, it is the world sport. So you meet people from all different walks of life. And I think any soccer fan is at a certain level a hopeless romantic, because it's a very, romantic sport, because it's painful and you have to find the beauty in it, and you have to have a little bit of that poetry in your heart sort of thing. So I think it's just amazing that when you see global events like the Olympics, like the World Cup, that we're all unified because we all like this one thing, and we all care about this one thing so much that it determines our mood, our energy, how our day is going to go. And I think that's beautiful. And it's just to see so many different people kind of be able to hone in on one thing. And it's so global. Like think about even just in CONCACAF, the federation that the US play in, you have US and Canada, but then you have Jamaica, you have these small Caribbean islands who are all just want the same thing. They just want to play. And I think that's so amazing. So that's kind of my favorite thing. I get to travel a lot. I get to meet a lot of different people. I get to be, it's an incredible game. So I'm just so grateful for my job. I really love what I do.
What's your most favorite stadium that you've been to for work?
NWSL or just stadium?
In general?
So I have to say, for both NWSL and MLS, Portland Stadium is amazing. The energy they have out there is incredible. The stadium's right in the city too, so you can like walk to it. It's in a really great location. The fans are amazing. For Portland games, I love Timber Joey. I love that whole thing. He saws off a log every goal, gives it to the player who scored. Thorns games, that crowd is so incredibly loud. I would have to say that might be my favorite stadium to go to, even though it's quite a trek from Philadelphia. It's worth it once you get there.
I'm jealous of everyone that's ever been to Providence Park, because I haven't traveled much lately, or just in general. I've been to that side of the country, but only for like basketball camps in high school. And it's just like, that looks like such a good time. And I'm just sitting here like so jealous. Like, well, I haven't even been to a Red Stars game yet. I've never been to SeatGeek. I've been to Soldier Field for a Fire game. It's just, it doesn't there's probably no place in the United States for any soccer team like Providence Park.
Yeah, it's a very unique atmosphere. And it's really special. I love being there. Yeah.
I'm glad that they added it to FIFA. Because it's just like, it's so awesome looking, and I love FIFA, so I'm gonna be playing as many Timbers games as I can. It's just, I could go on and on about how great looking that stadium is.
It's worth a trip.
Yes. I want to ask you though, this, even though this episode is going to come out next week, did you see that the Portland Thorns bus caught on fire? You've seen that whole thing, right?
I kind of saw their statement about it.
Yeah.
And I was like, what in the world? And I'm like, how did I miss this? But they said like nobody was hurt, which is great. But yeah, what a bizarre story.
There's just so much stuff happening in the NWSL this year. It's like, I've seen memes where people are
like, of course a bus caught on fire.
Yeah, like of course.
Yeah.
Or the 0 days since what was it? I saved the picture. I'm gonna look really quick. But when I saw the tweet, I believe I was at the Sky Wings game last night, and I was like, what in the world is this?
Yeah.
Like, I don't even know. Did I save the image? It's like Dwight Schrute and Jim Halpert, and they have like this sign with like 0 days since our last. I can't remember the last word, but that's what it was. And yeah, someone quote retweeted the tweet, and they posted that. It's like, yeah, there's just so much stuff. We've got 2 expansion teams coming. We've got stuff happening with the Spirit. We have the No Side Hustles campaign. How do you like navigate through all of these hectic things that are happening within this league?
I think it's important just to have a balance of knowing that we have a responsibility to the audience of like, what do they need to know? And, with coaches leaving midway through the season, the audience has a right to know why. And we have to tell them, we have to get that out there. That's our job as journalists, to tell them what happened. And everything else, I think we all have to just kind of approach it that way of like, what do people need to know? Because this is important to the trajectory of the league, good or bad. So I think when you have that kind of perspective of like, hey, I'm here to tell you the news, that is my job as a journalist. I think people respect you for that, because you're not trying to sensationalize anything. You're not trying to blow it out of proportion. You're trying to support the teams as best you can by showing your support, by reporting on what is happening. And you do it all within the walls of what makes people comfortable. If a player is not comfortable talking about something that happened to them, you don't push them on it. If they want to talk to you when they're comfortable, they'll talk to you when they're comfortable. And that's how you kind of further develop that trust and that relationship that you have. So I think it's all just, we talk about all those things as a broadcast team of, okay, what do we know? What can we confirm? And how do we put this out in the best way possible? How many times is it worth repeating during a broadcast? How many times is it worth repeating in a month? And we all kind of give our point of view of like, oh, well, I think it's important to say X, Y, and Z, but this isn't confirmed. So let's just say this. And we're all on the same page, just so the message is simple and consistent.
I want to ask you about, I saw a tweet, I want to say last month, maybe, where I was like this, there was the players sheet where they have like the players' names on it for the broadcasters. And one thing that people pointed out was that they had Quinn's pronouns on the sheet. And I just want to ask you, like, how important and is it to be like that and, use the correct pronouns? And how do we get more journalists and broadcasters to use those correct pronouns?
I think what's important to know is every broadcaster wants to use the right pronouns. And if there's ever a mistake or a slip up, it shouldn't be read into as disrespect for Quinn and how they want to be called and how they want to be identified, because everyone I've met in this league has nothing but the utmost respect for Quinn. And I hope Quinn knows that too. And so I think it's just, sometimes when you're broadcasting, and this isn't an excuse, but your brain goes on automatic. And sometimes those automatic things like pronouns that you're not used to implementing in your everyday life, because maybe you don't have people in your circle who go by they, them, other than he or she. It's just that extra second. So I know it's a huge point of importance for broadcasters. We all talk about it because we know how much this means, not just for Quinn, but other people who identify the same way Quinn does. And we want to make sure that we're seen as allies and, hey, we're on your side. By no means is any slip of the tongue or mistake, please, like, not seen as a disrespect or disregard for that. So I know it can be tough, especially for play-by-play who are just trying to keep up, and especially if it's a fast-paced game, and it's no excuse. And I know some people who have misidentified Quinn and they feel terrible because they know how important it is, and they know how much weight it carries, and it's an important opportunity to get right. And when you don't get it right, you feel like you did Quinn a disservice, you did the broadcast a disservice. So it's tough. But I'm so proud of Quinn. I think they have done an amazing thing for other, people out there who identify the same way, to show that you can be who you really are, how you truly feel, and you can be supported in that. And I think that's incredible.
Yeah, Quinn has been like such a inspiration for me myself. Like, I believe it was in February, I was like, I'm going to change my pronouns up because like I can,
Yeah,
it's been this thing that was building up, somehow, some way. Like I figured it out, when I was like 19.
Yeah.
Which I wish it wasn't that late, but it's fine. So like watching all these videos about Quinn and like other people around the world, and following those people and just like reading more, like educating yourself is also super important too. Quinn is amazing. I think that's how I'm gonna end this part of it.
Yeah.
They're so cool. Yeah.
They're amazing. I saw them right after they won the gold medal in Tokyo, and I was just like, it's incredible. It's incredible because you're on a huge stage and you showed so many people that they're not alone. If you feel a certain way, if you want to be seen or spoke about in a certain way, you can still be successful. You can still be supported. And you can still just like kick ass and win a gold medal. And I thought that was incredible.
I also seen on Twitter, I feel like everything happens on Twitter these days, where like the use of the hashtag for the Canadian national team is like a CAN with like a lowercase x and then the NT, which I think is really cool. I want to ask you, like, there's so much rebranding happening. I know the NWSL is thinking about rebranding. What's the issue with the W? Is there an issue with the W? And what do you think they're going to do about it?
I think it's an interesting point to be made because it's right. Not everyone in this league identifies as a woman. So why label a league as a women's league if not everyone in the league identifies as such? I think it's a good point to be made. I think it's a good point to explore. But I think what's most important is just get the opinion of the people who are in this league. It's not a decision to be made by just a front office or a marketing team. I think to really get a sense of what this league means to its players, you have to talk to the players. And the league does do a good job in certain aspects. And if they want to rebrand, I hope that's the direction they go. Just because you want your work to represent who you are, especially when you're an athlete, because you're putting out physical work. It's a physical representation, and you want that reflected back on what you're wearing or who gives you your paycheck and all of that. So I think it's an interesting conversation, and I kind of like that it's happening. And I honestly don't know how it'll go, but the league's going into its 10th year next year, and it's kind of a monumental moment. No other women's league has ever lasted this long in the country. So I like it. I like that there's more discussions. If anything comes out, if that's the only thing that comes out of it, I like that discussions like this are being had because I think they're important. And it makes you sit back and go, oh, I never thought of it that way because I'm only seeing it from my point of view or from my, how I view the world, my experiences, and to kind of open up that dialogue other people's experiences and views. I think it's super important.
So with it being the 10th season for the NWSL next year, we have 2 new teams, which means drama with the expansion draft. I believe you covered the expansion draft last year, right? Yes, I watched that on Twitch, and it was phenomenal to watch that coverage and to be like, I don't have to worry about the Red Stars because they already traded away my team's favorite players.
They did it smart. Yeah.
I can't believe they traded McCaskill and Nagasato like that. Yeah. I was very offended.
I know. I love both of them. But it was a very smart move because then they got immunity from the rest of the draft. And I think, you saw Louisville kind of take that and use that when trading away Kristen Press. And now they're exempt from the expansion draft. So they kind of learned a lesson through their own experience. But yeah, expansion drafts are wild. It's interesting to see how teams value other teams' players.
I'm very nervous. Well, for the Red Stars, like only one national team player. There's so many good ones on the Red Stars, and it's like.
And the thing is like it's desirable locations. It's California. Yeah. It's not going to be maybe super hard to convince a player to come out there. But I'm excited because especially Angel City, they've got amazing owners behind them and investors and so many incredible women from the soccer world and beyond that are investing in that group. And San Diego too has a really cool approach. So it's going to be interesting.
I just bought a Davidson jersey, Red Stars jersey. And like, after I did it, I was like, oh shit, what if she leaves?
Oh no, the jersey curse.
I was complaining to my friend. I was like, I just remembered that there's an expansion draft and they only get to protect one national team player.
Yeah.
I have no idea who they're going to pick.
It's tough. Yeah, they got some tough decisions to make.
Yeah, my cousin was like Julie Ertz, and I was like, that's my cousin's favorite player, Yeah. So I was like, okay, do they keep Alyssa Nair? Do they keep Julie Ertz?
I know.
I'm saying keep Davidson because she's young and she can be like, she's a part of the new generation. She was so young when she won the World Cup, playing in the Olympics this year. Like, I say just keep her. I may be biased because I just bought her jersey, but
it's a financial decision for you. Like, I don't want to buy a new jersey.
Yeah. I just got my Kristen Press shirt today. I was very excited. I ordered one when it came out because I was like, Nike, you don't know women's soccer fans enough. This might sell out right away. So I got one. And it's nice. I like the logo. I like the way the shirt feels. Merch.
Yeah, love merch.
That's really it. So I believe the expansion draft is in November, December. Which month?
I believe it's going to be in December.
December?
Yeah, because playoffs end in November. So I would assume it's probably December.
And do you know if you're working on that one again?
I'm not sure. I hope to be. They're always fun I like seeing how a team gets to make history. You don't get that opportunity really anytime in sports, especially in American sports when things are so ingrained and not often do you see expansion clubs coming into different leagues. So I like the idea of you get to start something from scratch, and it's not an opportunity many people get. So
we're gonna go to our lightning round now.
Okay.
It's my favorite part of the interview, just like learning more about the person I'm talking to, besides talking about the world of sports, talking about things that aren't sports. Well, kind of still. So I always ask this question first. Is there a book you're reading or an audiobook that you're listening to that you'd like to share with the world?
I am reading a book called The Untethered Soul. It's kind of more of like a self-development book. It's really interesting. It's about kind of how to separate yourself from your thoughts and understand that you are not your thoughts. You're the observer of your thoughts. And it helps a lot with different, difficult situations and things like that. So I like that book so far. Yeah.
What's your favorite album right now?
Like new album or
just like whatever you're listening to right now?
Okay. So I have to say, I feel like I'm one of those old people, but I loved Olivia Rodrigo's album. I could not stop listening to it. I'm like, am I too old to listen to this? Like, am I that weird old person listening to this? But I thought it was so good. I thought the way she writes songs is really unique. Some of the songs sounded like nothing I've ever heard of, but then some had some really cool, like nostalgic sounds to it. Speaking of nostalgia, I really like Dua Lipa's album, Future Nostalgia. I think that's a really great album. But yeah, I listen to a lot of old music. Like I try to keep up with like the cool new music, but I listen to like a lot of like 90s and 2000s music. That's kind of where I live.
I still listen to 2000 stuff too. I mean, I
Yeah.
was born in '02, loved like the like 2005 and beyond. That's kind of like some of the stuff that I listen to sometimes, but I also liked Sour. I also felt old listening to it. Like I'm only
Oh
a
my
year
God.
older than her. And it
If
was like
anybody should feel old, I'm like, oh my God, I'm 30 and I'm like crying to Sour. I'm like, this girl gets it. Like I'm in a great relationship. I'm crying over like driver's license. Like I'm like, she just knows how people feel.
my mom said that she needed a therapist, and I was like, oh my God, like come on.
This album was her therapy. I thought it was so good and just so mature. Like when I was her age, I could never have put down thoughts so eloquently. That like to me songwriting is just an incredible gift. Like if you have the ability to write something that so many people relate to, like that's insane. I don't even know where to start.
What's the best concert you've ever been to?
Hmm. I would say probably Bruce Springsteen, which I guess is another old answer. Bruce Springsteen was great and Third Eye Blind was great. Yeah, so I like older music.
Some interesting
Yeah.
takes.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're right. Those are some like older ones. I mean,
Yeah.
I've only seen like a few artists in concert. I've been to Fall Out Boy twice. I'm gonna see 21 Pilots my third time next month. Um, Concerts are really fun, and I'm glad
Actually,
that like.
I was gonna
Oh, you
add
got
another
another one?
one, but it's gonna make me sound even more old.
No, go ahead.
I saw Diana Ross in concert and she was incredible. She was so good. That was a great concert.
Do you have a favorite cheer that you hear during NWSL games?
Uh, where was I last? They had a pretty good cheer going. Gosh, I can't even remember where I was. I think it was North Carolina. And they had like a really good, I think it was like, oh, it was that song Tequila, like dun 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 dun, but they go Dabinia. And I thought, it's simple,
That's good.
it's clever.
That's
like,
clever.
I like that. I like that one. Yeah.
That's a good one. People are so creative. Like soccer has the most creative people.
I
for
know.
sure.
Yeah.
And the last lightning round question is, who is someone that you want to have on your podcast that you haven't had yet?
Oh gosh. I have like a very long dream list, but I think probably at the top, I'm going to put it out in the universe. I'd love to have like Andrea Pirlo on the show. I've been a fan of his forever. Just he's someone whose brain I would just love to pick. Just the way he sees the game, how he's the architect, the maestro. So just to get in that brain of how he watches. And I'd really love to have Mia Hamm. She was just such an idol to me. And I got to work with Julie Foudy this summer. And it was just so bizarre when I started because I was like, I had your poster on my wall, and now we get to work together. And I was just like, this is insane. Like, what is my life? So there's some great soccer players I'd love to talk to.
Well, I want to thank you again for coming on my show. Like, I really appreciate it. It was really nice to talk to you and everything like that. This is the time to plug away. Go ahead.
If you want to listen to the podcast, it's Pilla Talk Podcast. It's on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. You can follow me on Instagram at Marisa_Pilla or on Twitter at Pilla Talk.
Pilla Talk. That's like so creative too. I just wanted to tell you like that name.
I'm really running with it. Anything it applies to, I'm running with it. Yeah.
It's so good. I was like, coming up with the name for this show was difficult. And I'm surprised this name wasn't even taken. I was like, who didn't take this yet? I'll take it.
Sure, if it's there, I'll take it.
And of course, like tell the people to watch you on TV.
Right. So I'm on all of the game of the weeks for NWSL on
Mhm.
CBS. Our next game is on October 6th. It is Gotham and Washington Spirit. It is Carly Lloyd's return to Philly. That game's going to be at Subaru Park in Chester. So it's going to have a great Philly crowd. Really great energy. I'm excited for that one. I think it's a 7:00 game on CBS Sports Network. That's our next broadcast.
I will be hopefully tuning in. Hopefully I'm not working. But like that, also Philadelphia Union have some nice crowds too.
They do have some good crowds.
But
Yeah.
I don't like Philadelphia, clearly.
Oh, come on.
I'm
I'm
surprised you haven't
leaving.
said anything yet.
I know. I try not to pass judgment because I'm always judged for being a Philly fan.
The only reason I'm a fan of Boston is because I was a Utah Jazz fan growing up. I didn't like the Bulls. I'll root for the Bulls, but I was a Utah Jazz fan growing up because of Gordon Hayward. So when he became a free agent and decided to sign with the Celtics, I became a Boston fan. This is the only Boston fan team I'll root for. Yeah. And I actually bought this hat today because I was looking for a new hat, and I saw this nice little logo on there, and I was like, yeah, I'm gonna get that. But it's time for me to do my fancy outro. I don't script it. I don't have anything written down. I just go with whatever in my noggin, I like to say. So if you want to follow me on social media, guess what? You can. I'm on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. On Twitter and Facebook, you can follow me at WSM Podcast. And on Instagram, you can follow me at Women's Sports Matter. I'm sorry that they're two different names. Can't have a long handle on Twitter. So looks like I was SOL with that one. I'm trying to revive my YouTube channel. It's the Women's Sports Matter podcast. Hopefully I'll be able to upload all that stuff, especially like when I end the season, which by the way, I'm ending the season, not today. Don't worry. Everyone calm down. Okay. I'm ending the season soon because of school, but I'm thinking end of October, early November. So just that's a little FYI for you. Also, I have a bunch of resources down below in the description, like how to find a vaccine near you, how to find your nearest legislator, all that kind of stuff. Please go get vaccinated. Like, please, I want to go places. Okay, I want to go to school and I don't have to wear a mask, but it's also important to wear a mask. But anyway, if you go to vaccines.gov, type in your address, you'll find the nearest vaccine near you. Get your flu shot also. I feel like that's important. Just do the right thing. Okay. I'm done. This was great. Thank you again, Marisa, for coming on my show. I really appreciate it. I'm going to go do some homework and pack for my trip to Purdue because I'm a college student and sometimes people forget that. Anyway, thank you so much for listening to another episode of the Women's Sports Matter podcast. My name is Gianna Belcastro, and I'll see you next time, folks. Bye-bye.